Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Well, good morning from Giga-Texas. This is Wednesday, the 21st of September, 2022. And although it looks sunny out right now, for today we started off with a pre-dawn flight along the south and the west sides of the building. And we were able to get some pretty good views of some interior areas. At first, we start on the south end and the stamping extension. And as you can see by some of these photos, which don't really do the justice with the video because I was able to zoom in with the drone, but we get a chance to see some great activity that's going on inside on both bays of this very large area of the building that is under construction inside. We also see the near completion of an extremely large isolation foundation, which is a concrete structure that is mostly buried into the ground and supports some very heavy machinery. We saw this with the stamping machine over next door to that earlier on. In fact, it was one of the first things that was built at Giga-Texas, but now they're putting a new one in right next door in that stamping extension. So it's great to see. We also take a look inside the west side of General Assembly on the south end, where we see near completion of that work on the replacement of the concrete floor and the installation of the steel structure and flooring between the ground floor and the second floor of General Assembly. It looks much more finished inside, as you can see by some of these images that I'm showing. So otherwise, great video today around the site, a lot of information, a lot of great progress in various areas that I'll be showing you. So take a look at the video and I hope that you enjoy what you see. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.
A special thank you to all of my outstanding Patreons for your continued encouragement and support. Patreon members get access to hundreds of high-resolution photos, previews of the future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron using this link, which is also in the video description. Please also consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. As we start with a beautiful sunrise developing over Giga-Texas with brilliant oranges and reds, let's get a little bit down closer to the ground and let's see how this excavation area on this south end is developing. And as you can see, despite the little bit of low light, this has expanded again and is a large portion of this west side of this south parking and transportation, the temporary transportation location. As I bring the drone a little bit lower here and point it down, you can just see this large trapezoidal shape that continues to have concrete broken up and excavated out, and it'll be interesting to see how this continues to develop. These Model Ys are newly produced and they have them here for a period of time and then they move them over to the east transportation and parking lot, and that is very active, and we'll see that a little bit later today. But what I want to do is show you as much as I possibly can inside this stamping extension structure, since it's dark enough outside and well lit inside. The views here are pretty good. I'm able to get the drone to zoom in so you can see the work that's going on. In this particular door, what you see is an isolation foundation, a very large one, being constructed. In the inset photo on the 29th of November 2020, this is one of the very first structures built right next door to here for the stamping machine structure. And this is designed to hold extremely heavy and large metal forming or fabricating machinery. So as you can see, the concrete work is mostly done. It's still in a pit. They'll have to do some more finishing out, and then they'll have to fill that pit back up. Once that's the case, then they can do the ground slab and then do the installation of the equipment. That also is what will be supporting the manufacturing of the Cybertruck. So this gives you a really good idea of the status of that particular location. Here we see some more work on the western bay. It looks like there's actually some sort of a dividing wall right on the right-hand side of the bay, if you will, and it separates that isolation foundation for whatever will be constructed on this particular side of the stamping extension structure. So anyway, it's very rare that I'm able to get that shot, so I hope you enjoyed the views inside and a little update on what is going on with this portion of the factory. I've now repositioned the drone to look inside some of the construction that's going on this southwest corner of General Assembly. This is where they are installing General Assembly lines 2 and 3. In my previous time I showed you this section for a night flight. There was still work being done on the upper level steel. You can also see some ground slab work that's underway. But this is significantly more developed than it was just a month or so ago when I showed you inside here again. Apologize for the light reflecting off the window. Nothing I can really do about that. But you can still see in enough to visualize what is going on here, where this large section of flooring has been removed. I've showed you in my previous video where those concrete sections went. All of this steel has been installed from the South Steel and Material Storage just south of the pond. It looks like it is definitely much more developed at this particular point in time, and there will still be some more work that will continue here. And I'm kind of curious to see what will be on the second floor, as the General Assembly lines are on the first floor, which is difficult to view. You can also see in the background many sections of the walls are opened up, and you can see all the way through over the stamping extension structure. In fact, sometimes you can even see some of the green walls that we last were able to see about a year or so ago when they were building that section. These loading or receiving doorways continue to develop, and they're looking like they're getting the load levelers installed, which is great. I'll continue to move more towards the north just so you can see into the second floor of the General Assembly here, how that is transforming all of that steel work, which is an open section of some sort between this level and the ground level. It'll be interesting to see more development and more equipment that arrives and is installed in this particular section. You can kind of get glimpses on the ground floor of some deliveries, some crates, and some other activity that is going on there, as well as workers on the second floor working on that steel section that has been installed as well. Another thing that you can notice here is just the wide expanse of space on this second floor. A lot of room for development, production, and again, it'll just be interesting to see what they do. There are some interior walls being erected in this section right behind where the stairs were, and we can also kind of get a glimpse inside this main entry location where more work is going on inside, and we can also see a ramp being installed here on the south side of the main entrance. I'm going to pivot the drone over to this architectural wall, and the amount of trees and vegetation that has been brought here has grown even more. We should see some of this installed, the plants around that wall, very soon. So I'm kind of looking forward to being able to show you what that looks like. So let's continue further to the north along this side of the building and take a look at the third floor of the current General Assembly line section of the building. What you see here are more of these pallets with the 4680 structural battery packs. Again, they look like they're being stockpiled here, possibly for sometime in the future when they have enough of these to manufacture the 4680 variants in larger numbers. But this quick view just gives you an idea of how many are stored in this third floor of the building, and it is a significant amount. This also is the location of the building that manufactures the structural battery packs, and probably the battery packs as well for the 2170s. We can see the platforms here and where all the robots are, where all of this is manufactured. I'm going to turn the drone a little bit to the north, and we'll continue with an exterior tour of Giga-Texas today. So here on the frontage road is something that happens a lot of times. I don't normally show this, but I've had a few viewers ask what is going on. Basically, the police that patrol the highway occasionally will pull trucks over to do load inspections and to make sure that the vehicle is safe for operation. Oftentimes they use that particular location to do their inspections. But nothing wrong, it's just part of their normal inspection process. Here on the north end of the building, we see some activity on the platforms for the 4680 production section. We also see here what looks like sections of a large exhaust pipe that may be related to these containers on the right-hand side of the screen, which I believe are all parts of a regenerative thermal oxidizer system, which is part of the cleaning process for all of the volatile organic compounds that are a byproduct of the painting process. Now, there's already one of these regenerative thermal oxidizers installed into the factory. That was done early on. It looks like there's a second one. These other components that you see, some in the green wrappings, other to the right next to that yellow crane, and also some more over to the left-hand side of the screen. These are all part of that SSIISA HVAC, air filtration, heating, cooling, and possibly the purification systems that have been delivered and are being installed. You can see some of these packages with SSIISA marked on them, and also it looks like a lot of crew on the platform just starting the workday, and this is where they talk about the work that is going to be done today, and also just make sure everybody is on the same page for construction. Over on this section of the building near the casting machine structure, we see more deliveries, some very large pipes, these red and white components that are used for platforms and machinery installation for part of production. Some other deliveries here on this corner, and we also see the current status of the castings that have been made just outside the casting machine structure and are being stockpiled here before they are moved down to the body in white for assembly. We've now flown a little bit farther to the north to the electrical substation construction site. On the left-hand side of the screen, we see many of the components, both electrical components and also supporting structures, platforms, and poles that are being arrayed ahead of the construction. As we approach the construction site itself, we see more grade work is going on that southwest corner with the grader and some of the trucks on that section. We see some additional work that's going on these three, call them entrance ways, onto the main site itself. And overall, the site the overall grade looks like it's near ready for construction. You see workers out there doing some surveying as well. On this section by the road where they are spraying down the new dirt, they're filling in where they've installed that concrete pipe that will help drain that water detention pond. They're just getting this area compacted down to support probably a road at some point. Let's move a little bit further to the north, show you what's going on this section of the construction site. The main thing that we see today is the drill making the last of the large bores for the support for these large power poles that will be installed is underway. We also get a good look at the rebar cage that will be inserted down into the bore on the left-hand side of the drill. And we see some workers inside, and this gives you a good scale to how large this mount will be. And this will again be down in the bore. It will be encased in concrete, and on top of that will be the final mount that has the actual bolts for the pole to connect to. You can see two of the poles on the right hand side of the screen. You can see the mounts on the ground, and then right to the right of those poles you see the new mount. Onto the bottom left you see that rebar mount. That will be what will be encased in the concrete on the top, and the poles installed into that bore which is being drilled right now. So here's an overall view of this construction site as it appears today. As we relocate the drone up near the north part of the battery cathode plant, this view gives you an idea of how the remaining ponds and hills from the sand and gravel mine appear right now. Also on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see how some of those ponds have been filled in or continue to be filled in. This entire earthwork section is still getting some excavation work, as you can see. Overall, some of this dirt's being used for the east side, and then the entire side is being leveled out. This may again be for some sort of future construction, and this will be something that continue to monitor as it develops. But I'll get down a little bit lower so you can see how this section has continued to transform and continues to get a little bit more flat, and overall just transforming into possibly a construction site. I'll give you a good view of the battery cathode plant from the east side looking to the west in just a second. Take advantage of the sun, and then we'll talk about some of the details that are going on inside. In my past video, we saw that tent relocated to the north end. We also now see more of the equipment and materials being stored on this side of the building. As we approach in, I will zoom so that you can get much better view of what's going on. On the third floor, more of the studs are being installed for interior walls. On the ground floor, we see that yellow moisture-proof membrane being put down. This is done prior to putting rebar and putting the concrete to help support and protect the concrete from moisture. Here's another section on the third floor with the studs for interior walls. And on the ground floor here, where you can see the yellow, these are some very large foundations that will be most likely heavily reinforced for probably some pretty heavy equipment. You can see the crews are installing rebar now into those foundations. So probably, I don't know, sometime next week we'll see concrete being poured here. As we continue further to the south, you can see that large mezzanine on the third floor. It kind of hangs from the ceiling. It's maybe a walkway for inspection of some of the equipment or the processes. You can see some of the stairs are already installed. Much of the second floor of the concrete has been treated, and the ground floor has already had that slab completed, and it looks like more work will be starting soon. Here we see wall installation on the exterior continuing. 4 more walls are ready for installation on the ground level, the crane getting ready to lift them. You can kind of get a general idea of how this section of the building will look with the exterior walls. They've already stacked 3 high on the south end, as you can see. Also, the development of the interior walls, kind of that blue section on the second and third floors, is continuing as well. As I reposition the drone on the south end, you can see that the 4 receiving bays now have the top wall segments, also the doorway, and it also is at the 3rd level of the concrete. It'll be interesting to see if windows are put in, at what level they are installed, and how they will appear. Now, the sun's going to be a little bit of a difficult challenge for me here, but I will still continue to try to show you what I can. You can see 2 large white tanks on the ground here. This is a new development. It will be interesting to see if these are put inside or outside of the building. I'm going to try to use the wall to block the sun a little bit, but you can see how this is beginning to be shaped up and continues to progress to the north. Some of the HVAC ducting and other plumbing and steam pipe installation as well. Many crews here using the man lifts and the cranes for a wall installation, and also some more equipment. Here you see on the left-hand side how the material storage yard continues to change. The temporary platform for the 3rd floor is operational, and just to the north of there you can see, as soon as I turn the drone a little bit further to the south, a 2nd platform being installed. Most likely this one will be for the 2nd floor, so that materials and equipment will have an easier way of being loaded up to those particular floors. Pulling away a little bit further to the north, you can see on the ground floor that yellow moisture-proof membrane. Also, the yellow forms around the bases of the walls, those are the perimeter grade beam, and they are continuing to install those, pour concrete, and work their way towards the north. That is where the concrete wall panels basically sit on to form the base of the wall. So I'm going to reposition now to the east side of this material and trailer location, and what I'm showing here is this is a location that had trailers. It was a kind of a yard with a lot of equipment. You can see the bulldozers at work. This is being disassembled, and the equipment and the trailers that were located here have been relocated further to the south. We also see some other sections that have the wall panels that were being used as floors. Those buildings and those trailers have also been relocated. So this entire section continues to be reshaped, and I will show you where all of that is going in just a second. As we fly over the warehouse on wheels yard, you can see how this has transformed and has gotten significantly wider, how the fence has been relocated, and generally how this section looks. Now, the warehouse on wheels concept is a common, well-used system among many industries, and it is a way of being much more efficient with the deliveries and transport of production equipment. That is why they use it here at Giga-Texas. Now, this section that I'm showing you is continuing to develop and grow, and many of the trailers and equipment that you see here have been relocated from that section up the north where we were discussing the section where they were taking out the buildings, and they were doing some work with the bulldozers as well. So all of this section here is going to continue to grow. We also see amongst the trees more equipment is being stockpiled and used here. So these 2 sections will be where much of what we've seen on the north side is relocated, and that will allow them to do more construction in that central and northern sections nearest to the battery cathode plant. Thought I would give a little bit of an extended view of this new car staging and transportation lot. What I want to show you is just the number of Model Ys that are positioned here ready for transport. It's a significant amount. Now there's still some on the south end, as we saw earlier on the video, but those stay there not very long and then they're moved over to this particular lot. It looks like to me that this is definitely becoming much more operational. They're getting more comfortable with the operations here, and we'll probably see many more Model Ys. You notice that there's some parked along the fence at the bottom of the screen in addition to the ones here in the staging location. That just suggests that there's different processes in place. Some of the vehicles may be getting some checkout, some preparation, maybe getting assigned VINs, and then they move them over to this section here for the trucks to pick up. And as we've talked about in the past, many of these are loaded on the trucks and head about 30 miles to the north to the new railhead near Hutto, Texas, where they are staged and prepared for movement onto the rail trucks. As I bring the drone up to a higher altitude and move towards the north to give you a view of this entire section of the construction site, I'd like to point out just the number of vehicles in this parking lot for workers and construction contractors is just amazing to see, and this is a great indication of how production is also going here at Giga-Texas. I hope you enjoyed the pre-dawn portions of the flight, the information, and the views throughout the video. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.